Okay, people, so it's June 12th, 2018, about 5 or 5:30 in the morning. I've been up since 3:30. Anyway, I said I would start reading this. This is when ShaMay was leaving grade 12. And I just found this now. If you see here, it says her name. Do you see? So she made this, people. Right? I'm not sure when. Tourism 11. So this would have been in grade 11, because she was thinking about maybe going into tourism as a career choice. So, as Amari's grandmother, you know, who never gets to dress up. All right. It's enough just to keep up with life, people. All right. Oh my, I don't know how this happened. Hold on a minute, there we go. Pretty nice, eh? And just a lovely ring. Just put it on my head. I don't know where these fit. I'm losing weight. I'm afraid to put it over my knuckle. Yeah. Anyway, let's just read. My eyes are going buggy this morning. Serious. But yeah, no, as Amari's grandmother, you know, I have to think about his future, people, and I have to think about how I'm going to inform him when he's older. Did you see that? That his mother, how his mother died, and why. And I have to leave a lasting impression. Clap, clap. Oh my God, this camera's gotta go. And now it's all fuzzy. Look at that. I'm not doing anything, people. There we go. So, I'm thinking to go into my, I'm losing too much weight, people, that it doesn't even want to. Do you see how easy that is? Probably there. That one's better. There you go. Okay. So, I'm thinking to go through my old picture negatives and that type of thing before digital came along, and make a book for Amari, right? Of pictures from when she was a baby, and, you know, as she was growing, and, you know, stuff like this, right? Anyway, who I am. You know, I have to tell Amari who his mother was. Alright? This is what I'm going to read right now. I'm debating whether I need some light. Like I said, my eyes are going buggy on me this morning. My younger daughter is like, you know, Mom, you're getting old. And what if you go blind, she says. Oh, you know, you can't take all these books with you. You're going to be blind. And I'm like, yeah, well, you don't want to give away the books. You know, they're like, they're important. You give them away or whatever you do, and you'll never have them again. That'll be it. They'll be gone. And then one day you're going to need them. Or maybe not you, but somebody else will want them. Well, maybe Amari might want them because ShaMay was going to take the books when I passed. Right? I said to Tisha yesterday, you inherited everything that belongs to me as a woman. Right? In terms of, like, I was going to give between ShaMay and Tisha some of my purses that match my rings. Right? And my earrings. Right? Between the two girls, because Sierra would only lose it. Right? You know, things that I've had since I was a teenager myself, in some instances, right? And, like some of these books I've had for as long as I can remember, right? And, you know, I said, now you get all the purses, right? And, like, she's already like, well, what if you go blind? Mom, you can't take all this with you. You'll be living with me. And I'm like, yeah, well, you know, my son, my middle son, is not really interested in books because he's up with technology. You know, just Google it and you'll get your answer there. Or GPS it, right? He goes with his cell phone and he GPS's his way to a location when he's driving. Whereas I'll get the old map books and follow the map. Alright? Anyway, this was done on, March 6, 2014. And we'll start with the first page. I can't see, people. Here, let me try these other glasses. These ones hurt my eyes, as I have to flip back and forth between the two of them. And that's hard for me. And I cannot use these types of things on the computer. The only thing I can use on the computer are dollar store glasses. You can see I'm struggling, right? Okay. This is a dedication. You see? To my mother. You have given me life, the blessing in which I am able... Now this is what my daughter wrote in 2014, which I guess she would have been 18. Does this work? No. I'm not rushing people. This yard is like... Right? It makes me tired. I did 2 full days. All day. Now I have to play catch up. Oh, that's not right. Oh, wait a minute. 2014. She would have been 19. Going into 19. She was 18 at the time when she wrote this. 18 years old. Now, but before I read this, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to read some of it because I'm talking about other things here too, right? In 2012, there was a major disruption in her life because Andre was wrongfully apprehended, right? And in those days, she was upstairs in her room. And she really, really liked it. But because I had to make accommodations for Andre, I had to send her downstairs, right? With Uncle John and Auntie Joan. Because Joan was with us right up until December of 2012. And this was March Oh wait, sorry, 2014. But she went down in 2012 because in 2013, in January, I sent her down to make accommodations for Andre. All right. And then once she went downstairs, there kind of became a disconnect as in terms of, you know, mother and daughter. Because, one, there's no inside stairs in this house, so it's not like you can go up and down. It's always everything's around from the outside to the back stairs. And that makes a disconnect right there, right? And then, you know, just being downstairs, right? When the cat's away, the mice will play. So, you know, Uncle John and Auntie Joan were down there at the time. So she helped Uncle John quite a bit. And, anyway, it altered her path. That's what I'm trying to say. It altered her path in that, you know, she, instead of focusing on school, because I wanted her to go to school, to college for music. I really did. And I encouraged her as much as I possibly could. But through her travels within the school system and seeing her mother, I wouldn't say ostracized, but most definitely criticized for being a single parent on social assistance, she didn't want that same backlash, right? And plus, you have to remember, she was highly academically inclined to where she liked to feed her mind knowledge and she enjoyed learning, right? But she stifled it when she decided that, like, after this was done, right, and it was time to move on to the next level, even though she graduated with honors and could have done better than what she did. In other words, she was at the top 10%. She could have been at the top 2% if she would have really applied herself. But, you know, graduating in a top 10% and then not following up with that through a post-secondary or a trade or something kind of put her in a position where she felt that if she'd go to work and then save money to go to school, it would be more financially realistic in terms of not going into debt, because she's seen her brother going into debt through going to school. That camera's flickering. Right? So she started working at McDonald's. That's what I'm trying to say. And she'd argue with me, and no, I'm going to work, and I'm going to save, and I'm going to do this. But she actually did go back into a different college. I'm not sure where it is, because she was going to be a nurse, because she needed to upgrade on her biology and her math, right? And that type of thing. So she did go somewhere. I have to go look through her old papers to figure out where it was exactly. The only problem with that, though, is it was a private place, and I guess the upgrading was okay in terms of she didn't have to pay for it. I don't think she paid for it. But the course itself she would have had to pay for much more because the institution was private versus going to the college that my son was going, which was Langara at the time. That was more of a public college and not as expensive. But when she went to make application to go to Langara, the credits that she had received on her science and her math at the other college that she was going to so that she can go into that program wasn't applicable. So that kind of threw her off, right? It kind of distracted her. But you have to remember, by this time, she's living downstairs, right? While I'm upstairs having to deal with Sierra, you know, going down the tubes, basically, right? Well, Andre was in foster care, you know? And so what I'm trying to say is, if Andre would never have went into foster care, right? She would never have went downstairs. She never wanted to go downstairs. She always wanted her room back. Always. Because that was the best place for her, right? But, you know, under the circumstances, I had to have a room for Andre, right? So, you know, that room sat empty for like a year as we fought for Andre. While ShaMay was downstairs, you know, managing the best that she could. Anyway, all right, let's just start reading. Oh, these glasses. I don't know if there's I can't see people. Okay. To my mother, you have given me life, the blessing in which I am able to live with opportunities full of wonders and prosperity. But I could not have gone as far as I have without you to guide, love, and nurture me. My voice is tired, people. I dedicate this book in your name because you have always been there to encourage me even through the toughest of times, and I am grateful to call you my mother because of it. To my nephew, Andre. My little Andre, ever since you were born, you gave me hope in the greatest ways that I cannot explain. You have made me want to try harder than I ever have, and it is because of you, my sweet Bubba, that I will never give up on myself, you, and our family. You have brought light into my life, and what I will bring in yours is a lifetime of bliss. And what I will bring in yours is a lifetime of bliss. Well, let me tell you something, people. Andre really does miss Auntie ShaMay. Because ShaMay had the baby, Andre, ShaMay, and the baby would hang out together. And the baby was quite happy to be with his mummy and his cousin. And Andre was quite happy to be with his cousin and his auntie. And there was a bond developing between the two of them. Right? And ShaMay really did love Andre. Okay. Who I am. You can see that. My name is ShaMay Geraldine Chorney. I was born in Surrey, BC on August 5th, 1995. I currently attend Qualcomm Park Secondary. The years of my life has reached 18. So she was 18. Wandering along my existence, remembering my childhood to the very minute that brings me to speak right now. I am older, yet I am still finding myself. What makes who I am is a question that occasionally I cannot answer. Questing to find those answers is a journey that I am continuing to lead. But everyone who knows me says I am very smart, caring, stubborn, and loving. Very true, people. Sometimes the hurt I have makes me feel as though I'm in a lifeless abyss. Remember, she lost her room, right, in 2012. Had to witness her sister get completely out of control with her addiction because she was introduced to a needle while being disenfranchised from her home, right, for all the wrong reasons. And then, you know, having Andre in foster care for 14 months, knowing how she felt about him when he was first born, and then from the time that he was born till 28 months until he disappeared. You know, and then you got a 14-month gap in there with just a bunch of bullshit in it, right? That in her mind, as she was a teenager, right? Developing brains develop until people are 25 years old. You know, my kids were 15, 16, and 17, 18, right? While this stuff was going on. So you can hear it just within the first sentence that she wasn't completely happy, right? Maybe if she would have stayed in her room and Andre would have stayed home, things in life would have been different, right? Because she was grounded in her room. She liked her room, right? And she was being educated in her room, right? Whereas once she got downstairs, she wanted to be more independent, you know. Well, there was teen conflict going on because of the stress that was going on with my oldest daughter and Andre and whatnot and Joan and just the whole 9 yards. She was, you know, she was being manipulated by the employees within the school system to, you know, just stay focused. And, you know, if you're not happy living at home with your mom, just get your grade 12 and go get a job and move out. That's what they used to tell her, right? When she'd go complaining about me because of teen conflict, right? Parent-teen conflict. And things that I had no control of, in terms of I couldn't control the fact that one day Andre was just gone. And then I was left with the ramifications around that, and I had to rearrange my life. And not only did I have to rearrange my life, but I had to rearrange my children's lives. And ShaMay is expressing this through the first sentence of being sad. But it is something that is hard to understand when it has gone on for so long. Okay, let's start from the beginning. Go with the path of least resistance. Sometimes the hurt I have. Where did that hurt come from, people? Andre had just gotten back in the first part of 2014, March. We were just getting him back in March of 2014. Perhaps when she wrote this, Andre wasn't even home yet, because he didn't come in until the end of March, first part of April. Right? Sometimes the hurt I have makes me feel as though I'm in a lifeless abyss, contemplating if this is a stage in which I am going through, or if it will last forever. It is something that is hard to understand when it has gone on for so long, in an inward course, reaching the very verge of despair. Because we had a really rough time, people, losing Andre. I am depressed. I am a depressed person in a world of confusion, not knowing what to do when times become tough. But even so, I recognize all the things around me that create my self-identity, including the hurt that brings me to think about what choices I will make. Indeed, I hold values that abide to my moralistic code, and these values have carried me since I began to fathom them. First, I learned to never inflict pain on another, physically or emotionally, for the emotional hurt I feel is not something I want to instill in another. I take that pain and transform it into a kind heart to help and to console, capable of unconditional nurture and graciousness. I was thinking, this was written in March of 2014. Obviously, she finished out the school year, right? I'm going to have to backtrack on this, people. Like I said, I'm going to make a book for Amari and of a timeline of ShaMay's short life so that he has something to hang on to and to grow from, right? And to develop her strong skills, right? Because she's not here to provide those skills to him in a physical sense, right? For the emotional hurt I feel is not something I want to instill in another. Again, we went through a lot of pain, people, because of what happened to Andre and Sierra. I take that pain and transform it into a kind heart to help and to console, capable of unconditional nurture and graciousness, as I only want to see people happy. I have learned that honesty, secondly, is fundamentally in every relationship because it is the backbone to trust, and with it one can establish friendships beyond the unimaginable, just as I have. Finally, the power of love is an expression that truly no one can go without. I give love not only to receive it back, but because everyone deserves to feel as though they are cherished in one way or another, and to know that they are appreciated and never unsought of. That's who she is. This is how she viewed herself. Values have only led me to consciousness of the good angel, but the insignificance of people in my life are the ones whom keep me right. My family has always been the one element that I always turn towards when I need reassurance, if a time comes to when I want to escape from having a good heart. They remind me of who I am when my world turns melancholic. And with this melancholic, I don't know, my son would know how to pronounce this word. And with this stability, I am able to stay as I have been. This brings me to say that my life's passion has always been to pursue myself as a nurse. There is nothing I would rather do than assist others. So in 2014, people, she was thinking about being a nurse. And like I said, after she finished high school, she ended up going into a college to upgrade on her math and her biology. But when it came time to transfer out of that college and go into a public college, the credits that she had gained on those courses weren't applicable. So that kind of threw her off track again. Not to mention what happened to Andre and Uncle John. There is nothing I would rather do than to assist others in their need of aid and guidance, because I too have gone through pain, and it is always solacing to know that someone is there for you. You have to remember, she grew up looking after Uncle John, and then along came Auntie Joan, right? So it was just kind of like something, because as the kids were growing, I always told them to keep an eye on Uncle John, just as much as Uncle John was keeping an eye on the kids. The kids, as they were getting older, were keeping an eye on Uncle John and helping him out and doing whatever they needed to do to help Uncle John, right? Uncle John always came first. This has been my life. This is who I am. Although I question my identity out of negative states I can fall into, I look around me and remember why I live my life the way I do. My family, my morals, and my struggles. Because ShaMay was not a bad person, people. She strived to be independent. She strived to be responsible. She strived to try and make the right decisions. But she was like that little pinball in a pinball machine when somebody goes ping and the doll goes boing and then boing, 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 boing. Because just as much as there were negative influences that were influencing my oldest daughter into heroin addiction, into a lifelong heroin addiction, you know, there were negative influences that, you know, the ramifications around the actions of what happened to Sierra and my grandson, right? That influenced ShaMay and distracted her from doing what she needed to do at a very young age, because one, she was capable of doing it, and two, she wanted to do it, right? You know, the predatory behavior. This is the government's worker union sector isn't supposed to capitalize off of vulnerable families that are just trying to exist in a world that I don't know. You know, like, what gives people the right to live on this planet and other people, they're not allowed to live on this planet? You know, the classism. My family got caught up in a lot of classism. Like, this breaks my heart that she was so depressed in grade 12 in 2014. But who wouldn't have been depressed? We were all depressed. That's common knowledge. People come in and just snatch babies out of your life, and or, you know, loved ones like Uncle John. You know, you don't have to be a damn baby. You could be a damn old person and just snatch them up, because that's how the ones that are snatched, they just damn you and damn you and damn you. What gives people the right to go around damning others? So that they can brag on about their fucking boat or their van or their swimming pool, or they live by the lake, you know? I am a girl who has an aching heart. Yeah, because Andre wasn't home yet. And we went through 14 months of hell with Sierra. But I used my good and bad experiences to learn from them, creating love in all forms out of everything that happens, so I can pass it on to the next person. With this, there is nothing I would change about the person I have grown to be. And people say that they never want me to change either. Before I was, there were. Let's see. There she is, right there. You see? Before I was born, there was my mother, Judy. My two brothers, Brooklyn and Marcaine. My sister, Sierra. And my grandfather, John. Wow. My grandfather. Isn't that amazing, people? Where does that word sound familiar? Growing up, I have always been surrounded by my family. Uncle John went missing, right, basically February 23rd of 2015. This was written in March of 2014, with Andre still not home yet. Growing up, I have always been surrounded by family. I was raised in a fairly big house at the time, with a front and backyard, both in which were big enough to be considered the size of small football fields. It's true. I have a large family, and we were all very dependent on each other, and still are to this day. I never met my father, as he left to the U.S. when I was conceiving in my mother's womb. All I know is that he was a good man to my mom, and how he has several children on his side, including me. Always said nice things about her dad. That's one man I know who really loved me. I loved him too, but I just couldn't move to the U.S. Uncle John didn't want to go. If Uncle John would have went with me, I probably would have moved over there and married him, but Uncle John didn't want to go, and I couldn't leave Uncle John, and Uncle John didn't want me to leave him, and so anyway. My mom has been a single parent to all 5 of us for over 30 years, starting from when my older brother, the oldest, was born. That's pretty much true. We have always put the past behind us, as everyone in our family history has either died, lived somewhere else, or communication has not been established. In other words, all my aunts and uncles died. My grandfather, my grandmother has died. My mother has died, right? And then in regards to cousins and stuff like that I have through those uncles and aunts. I'm not in communication with them for whatever reason. Right? Or they live somewhere else. So, aside from this, it is, you see, I had one cousin, Donnie. His name's Donnie. He's a little older than I am. Anyway, when I lived at Wally's house, pregnant with ShaMay, right? So ShaMay was my 4th child by this time, right? And he came with his wife, and Donnie was in his 40s, and his wife was like 39 years old or something like that, and they didn't have any kids, right? And Donnie worked with youth that had psychiatric problems in a facility of some kind, and his wife was a teacher or something. They were, anyway, professional people that couldn't have kids and were been trying for years to have kids. So I ran into Donnie. I don't remember how I ran into him, but anyway, I invited him over for dinner, and so I had big belly, right? I had big belly with ShaMay, you know? And I guess it perturbed his wife because she couldn't get pregnant, and she was already like 39 years old or something like that, and I was on my 4th, and I was like, you know, I don't know, 32, something like that. I was already on my 4th baby. So they had the one dinner and then just never came back. Probably because the wife got jealous. Not my fault, people. Right? Aside from this, it is only my 2 sisters. Okay. We have always put the past behind us, as everyone in our family history has either died, lived somewhere else, or communication has not been established. Aside from this, it is only my 2 sisters, 2 brothers, grandpa, and mom that made up my family, with my baby nephew who was born 3 years ago from my oldest sister. My family is forever growing, and the bond keeps us together, strengthening with every new birth. So obviously, Andre was on her mind. I don't know how long this video was going, so maybe I'll just read one more page and then we'll stop, and then, I don't know, we'll just go with the flow. I'll just put ShaMay's senior memory book, part 1, and then when I go into it again, it will be part 2 with the same seniors, you know, ShaMay's senior memory book, right? Anyway, okay, so now this is the one we're going to read. What is the title of that? Before I was, there were. Throughout this roller coaster that is life, I am grateful to my siblings, as we have always been there for each other. Sure, we fight. We are dysfunctional, and a lot of times people wonder why we even live in the same house together. And that's because Uncle John used to say, we stick together as a family. We stick together as a family. It was always Uncle John. We stick together as a family. But the main thing that everyone says about my family, despite our dysfunction, is how we all stick together. We stick together as a family. From something as simple as a haircut to helping each other get jobs. We always assist each other in preparing the road we will experience for the rest of our lives. Without them, I fear how absolutely incompetent I may actually be. On the other hand, it is my mother who has my greatest respect, because she has always put up with my tantrums and stubbornness. It kind of started when she was 12, because she had a native friend who was somewhat of a bad influence, because her friend was very, very rebellious. Right? But it didn't really start kicking in until she was about 15. She has given me the best childhood, to which I am blessed to have a vivid memory of. more than what I could ask for, because even when times were tough, all she had to do was make me smile. We have an open relationship where I can share anything with my mom, good or bad, without feeling afraid. I know she will always be there to pick me up when I fall, but catch me before I do. Without a doubt, my grandfather is the greatest influence I have had in my life thus far. He is 76 years old. No, he was a little younger than that. Well, actually, 75. He was 75. So she wasn't far off. He is a man of goodwill and the most family-oriented individual I know. Nothing else matters. She wrote this, people, before he disappeared, okay? He disappeared almost a year later. This is a man of goodwill, the most family-oriented individual I know. Nothing else matters to my grandpa than the people who sit at the same dinner table as him. His desire to preserve and stay with a positive attitude is one of the reasons I have the same viewpoint in today. And that is so true, people. No matter what it was, Uncle John and I, we used to laugh and say, oh, we're going to grease ourselves down. We're going to get through it. You know, stick together as a family. You know, I'd say go left, he'd push right. I'd say stop, and he'd push. But despite all that, he was there. It didn't matter. If you needed help, he would help. And if he needed help, we would help. Right? When we do the midnight move, or midnight clean, or whatever, like start moving furniture at freaking midnight. You know, start moving dressers at midnight. From, you know, in the bedrooms, or just moving things around, rearranging. And I'd say, John, you know, stop, and he'd be pushing. I'd say, John, go right, and he'd go left. And we used to sit there at the dinner table, and, you know, we remembered those days, and we'd start laughing about the good old days. His desire to preserve and stay with a positive attitude is one of those reasons I have the same viewpoint today. My grandpa has played a major role in raising me into the young woman I am, and for that he has my deepest appreciation and gratitude. It's true, people. My grandmother, this is Joan, when she moved in, she moved in 2009, people. My grandmother latched to my grandpa like the love was bound to them, and it was. Before she passed away, she had countless health problems that began when she was a teenager, many of which she initiated on her own that eventually led into more serious medical issues. She was anorexic, bulimic, and all that stuff, right? Throughout the years, her problems got worse, and it was difficult on all of us to see her that way. However, my grandpa nevertheless took the time to give her all the attention he could, because we were there to help him, people. In essence, I am blessed with the fortune of having been born into an amazing family. From my siblings to my mother and grandpa, they have all influenced me in great ways. This is one reason why I am so glad to have a big family, because from each and every one of them I acquire different strengths that help develop as a person. Okay, so this is the last one. As you see, my children were very happy. I had very happy children when they were little people. Everything kind of started to fall apart when we lost our Wally's house in 2003. I was in that house for 8 years. Along came the BC Liberal government and the targeting of vulnerable families. And it's been nothing but a roller coaster ever since. But in the core, the kids were happy. Right? Uncle John was happy. Suddenly, I became me. The first memories I can produce from my mind are when I was about 2. At this time, my younger sister was not born yet, but my mother was pregnant with her. I lived with my family in Delta, BC, right up until I reached 7 years old. I went to preschool and kindergarten in Delta before we moved to Surrey. I recall a kindergarten bad experience that I had. My teacher thought I forgot her name. Okay, my teacher, although I forgot her name, hit me one day. This is true, people. She had let us go outside, and I was playing on the slides with my friend. This was in kindergarten. This was in the 9th month, right? It was like they had 1 more month to go. And right up until then, she really liked going to school. And, what do you call it? Then one day, that was it. You couldn't get her to go to school for nothing. She dug her heels into the cement and would cry. You couldn't walk her, nothing, right? And then, of course, I had to ask, what's going on, right? Because John would say, like, she doesn't want to go to school. He'd bring her back. He'd go walk her to school, and then he'd come back, and she'd say, he's not going anywhere. So it turned out that this teacher had hit ShaMay on the face in the playground because first the teacher was a first-year student, like the teacher it was her first year of teaching kids. She had just graduated from college, and this was her first year of teaching kids, kindergartners. And I guess ShaMay didn't want to get off the slide and was just being hyper, so the teacher got frustrated and smacked her on the face. My teacher, although I forgot her name, hit me one day. She had let us go outside, and I was playing on the slides with my friend. We were having fun, and I guess she did not like that we were both going down the slide at the same time. She came up to me and told me to go down the slide one by one. Of course, I did not listen. I just wanted to play, and my friend encouraged me to go down with him. After that, I remember her coming up to me, and then she slapped me on the face. I started crying. My mother tells me that after my teacher hit me, it was a nightmare trying to get me to go to school. She wouldn't go. She refused. Finally, after a week of trying to get her to go to school, I phoned up the school, and I said, that's it. I'm just keeping her home for homeschooling. I didn't want to traumatize her because I tried to talk to the principal about it. And because you're dealing with a union, of course, ShaMay was lying. She was 5 years old, and she was lying about what the teacher did. And, therefore, ShaMay must have had psychological problems. And, she needed to see some counselor in school so they could get the truth out of her. So that there was no pending lawsuit, right, people? That's what it was. And because I had been working on the nonprofit and I was feeling really positive and stuff, trying to promote universal school meal programs and, school restoration and all this other crap I was trying to do, right? I didn't want to rock no fucking boats, right? I wasn't in the mood to be trying to sue the school district because some teacher, went like this. She was a Chinese teacher. Chinese people. Right? And wasn't up for a battle, It was like 3 weeks left of school. I said, that's fine now. Just bring her home for homeschooling. And, I'm not pushing it. I'm not making her seeing counselors. I believe my daughter. I believe that she was smacked in the face by the teacher because no child's going to want to go to school. Couldn't wait to get out of the door for 9 freaking months. And then all of a sudden, just, I'm not going. And ShaMay was stubborn like that. Right? So I knew she was telling me the truth. But it was the union trying to protect itself and protect its freaking employees, right? So that's how homeschooling started with ShaMay. It wasn't because I wanted her at home or ShaMay didn't want to go to school initially, right? So I brought her home and give her some time to forget that bad experience, right? That's basically what I did, right? My mother tells me that after my teacher hit me, it was a nightmare trying to get me to go to school. She tells me how I would cry every morning for a month straight because I was scared of my teacher. Well, it wasn't a month straight. I kept her home for about a week or so, and then finally I just said, that's it, right? I'm not wasting my time. Like I said, the principal wanted to dub her as a psychologically pathological liar or something at age 5 years old, right? straight because I was scared of my teacher and I would have fits. So my mom pulled me out of kindergarten and homeschooled me for a couple of years. Indeed, homeschooling was one of the most memorable parts of my childhood. We had a dining room and kitchen that was attached to each other, so every day I would be at the end of the dining room reading out loud words off a chart my mom made for me while she was about 12 feet away cooking. And that's true. And believe it or not, the charts that Andre's now just starting to read, because he has a learning disability, but now he's cluing in to words and how words are now being put together. I have the very charts that ShaMay and Marcane learned to read on, which in this instance were on old poster boards like 20 years old. And I'm using the same charts. I would play outside for hours. Okay, let's go back. We had a dining room and kitchen that was attached to each other, so every day I would be at the end of the dining room reading out loud words off a chart my mom made for me while she was about 12 feet away cooking. I would play outside for hours in the playground and tree fort my mom built when she was pregnant with me. This is true. Making islands in the dirt with my oldest brothers and 2 sisters. I loved doing it too. I don't think Tisha was, well, maybe, yeah, Tisha would have been born. I would play outside sometimes, usually when it was raining. My sisters, brothers, and I would all play hide and seek throughout the house, but we loved hiding downstairs because there was lots of cool spots. My younger sister, Tisha, and my older brother, Marcane, were the 2 that I mostly played with, as my other 2 older siblings were more into doing their own activities. As for what I did after, I was about 8 up to the present, playing video games, hanging with friends, and enjoying my time at home with my family. ShaMay didn't really go out a lot. Right? Anyway, I'm going to just leave that for now because this video is probably too long. Right? And at this rate, there'll probably be another 2 or 3 more videos. I mean, obviously, I'm doing this for Amari, for when he's older. He can look back. I gotta change these. He can look back on these videos just as much as Andre can. Like, just the video that I just did with him outside. As you can see, Andre likes to talk with his hands. I wonder where he learns that from. And he likes to work on developing his people skills. I don't know if you've noticed it, but I've noticed it, people. So I like to encourage it when I can. You know, the more he can gain confidence, the better it will be for him when he's older. So these videos, I'm just going to continue making them. Eventually, we'll get into these things here. Haven't done that yet. Haven't done the thank you list in terms of, you know, for the people that have helped out with ShaMay's cremation and whatnot, right? And gave flowers and whatever, right? And helped me out a little bit with Amari. Still have to do that. So, anyway, I'll be back.